Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, that's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you follow. Make sure before you follow Second City Sports, make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so. That's why. And also, so you can catch our other 5 live shows throughout the week. If you happen to miss them, you can watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, find Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this program, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to our podcast at War Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anchor. Once again, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have a question or comment during any of our topics for today's show, during our 2-hour extravaganza, we're only streamed on YouTube only today. You can go to Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube, type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, act foolish, and any of that stupid stuff, I've given Lakeena the full boat to give you the boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. Speaking of giving people the boot, Lakeena, let's kick off the Monday edition of Second City Sports by discussing the Chicago Bulls. They finished the regular season, the 2021-22 edition, with a 46-36 mark as they defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, 124-120 in their regular season finale. Lakeena, as I said on this program for the last few weeks, I told you that I expected this team to win 46-48 games. It was nice to see some of the young guys get some action last night as most of the big guys sat out with DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Nikolai Vucevic, and others. Patrick Williams scored a career-high 35 points in 41 minutes of action, including 3 or 4 shooting from three-point range. Rookie sensation, Chicago's very own, Morgan Park's very own, Ayo Dosunmu, the rookie point guard. He started last night, played 45 minutes, scored 26 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, and dished out 6 assists. Tony Bradley Jr., who was one of those big free agent acquisitions over the summer, he got a chance to play extensive minutes, 15 minutes to be exact, had 11 points and grabbed 8 rebounds. And Tristan Thompson, who was picked up after the trade deadline, he played 15 minutes in the starting lineup, had 10 points and 5 rebounds. Lakeena, as we said on our shows last week, the thing, as you mentioned, it wasn't as important to finish out the regular season with the winning streak, unlike yours truly, but it was that confidence to get going in the playoffs and to rest up your guys. That's what happened last night. But the guys that need to get some run, to get some tick, they took advantage of that last night.
They did, and getting a chance to see guys that we don't usually get to see on the court. I think that's on both sides. I mean, I think Minnesota. I think Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. They didn't play last night.
D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, so Russell either. Yeah, so a lot of their guys, sat and that's fine. I think we all thought that maybe that would be the case because there wasn't really much to play for. Minnesota already clinched their spot in the play-in. The Bulls already clinched the 6th seed, so there really wasn't much to play for at this point. So yeah, it was definitely great to see. It looks like P. Will, 35 points, like you said, a career high for him. Ayo had 26 points, which is a season high. Tony Bradley Jr. and Jared Jones Jr. They both had double digits off the bench. So I think this is a nice, good team win for the Bulls. If anything else, like you said, for confidence. Getting that confidence, getting that going, and once they don't have to play again until this weekend. So that's always kind of have that confidence going into the playoffs. And look, I think they needed that.
Yeah, they also needed that. And also, too, Derrick Jones Jr., who we talked about on this program for the last couple of weeks. Stacey King mentioned it on the broadcast last week that he wanted to see what Derrick Jones Jr. could do. Of course, remember, he was injured around the All-Star break. He didn't get a chance to play. But he got a chance to play yesterday in 29 minutes of action. He scored 12 points and grabbed 4 rebounds. He was 3 of 5 shooting. I think he's going to be that surprising guy in the playoffs as they open up this next Sunday against the Milwaukee Bucks on the road. We'll get more into that a little bit later on in the show, and we'll have an extensive preview on our special NBA playoff preview show in our next episode this coming Friday with some very special guests. You want to stay tuned for that. But Derrick Jones Jr. looked good yesterday. You mentioned about Patrick Williams and Lakeena. And I just want to mention this with the young guys. We all know that the starters are going to get close to 40 minutes, sometimes 42, 43 minutes during the playoffs. That's what it's going to be. But how many of those guys that Billy Donovan really trusts coming off the bench? Of course, you have Javonte Green. I've been high on him all year, no pun intended. And Derrick Jones Jr., does that mean that he's going to get some excessive minutes in the playoffs? Ayo Dosunmu, as I said all year, I said it during our preview show back in October because Kobe White, remember, started off the year on the injured list. How much playing time that Ayo got throughout the season is going to serve him in the playoffs. And I think we're going to see that here. But outside of those two, who off the bench does Billy Donovan really trust? And I know Kobe White, for those of you listening and watching, I know he didn't play yesterday, but will the leash be short on Kobe White? He's been struggling over the last few games. And this is going to be the first playoff run for this group as a group. But DeMar DeRozan has playoff experience. Nikolai Vucevic has limited playoff experience with Orlando from a few years ago. Derrick Jones Jr. to a lesser extent. But outside of that, that's it. My question is, with Billy Donovan, how much of the young guys do you trust coming off your bench now with Alonzo Ball being done for the year? It starts with Kobe White. If he's not having a good shooting game, does he pull the plug early? That means it's going to put much more stress on the starters. And you're down to start with Lonzo Ball already.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those days where you kind of wonder, okay, this is now the time, and this is actually going to be Billy Donovan's first run in the playoffs. So it's going to be, let's see like what pieces that he has that he can play with. I mean, you want to make sure, Jones Jr. and Tony Brazier, Bradley has a little bit of experience, playing in Philly, but he didn't really play much in some of those, Philly teams. Jones, Derrick Jones Jr. has a lot of limited experience as well. So I'm wondering, like, you got guys, DeRozan's got experience playing with the Raptors. Vooch has some a little bit of, not too much, but a little bit of playoff experience. So it's going to be one of those days where how this team adapts. And you still got a lot of this, going around with starters. You don't want to depend on your starters too much, especially in a 7-game series. It's going to be very tricky to see how he sets this up, how Coach Donovan sets this up, because this is going to be one of those times where we're going to see what this team is made of. I mean, okay, yeah, they're playing Milwaukee. If you saw the stats with Casey Johnson said, some of the stats, I mean, yes, a couple of games, were really close, and okay, yeah, the Bulls went over against the Bucks, this season. Okay, all right, but look, crazy things happen in the playoffs. I mean, okay, yeah, they've won 16 of the last 17 meetings. Okay, fine. They haven't, the Bulls haven't been the Bucks since 2017. When Giannis plays. So, okay, so the Bulls actually have a shot because we've seen weird things happen in the playoffs. So, you never know. I mean, unless someone's, is not too productive, and someone just, completely falls apart. Like I said, we'll get more into it with our panel coming up on Friday. But this is going to be where it gets sort of, I'm thinking that I'm not going to say that the Bulls are going to pull off the upset. I'm not saying that, but I'm thinking this could go 6 or 7. I think people, especially if we see a little bit of DeRozan that we know, we see a little bit of Zach and Vooch, we'll see, Ayo's gonna get some playoff experience too. P. Will's, looking better and better. And, Tristan Thompson has some playoff experience as well. People forget. So yeah, this is gonna be how it all plays. I mean, there's not gonna be any nerves with this Bulls team. I don't think.
You're listening to Second City Sports live in 11 color for a Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. If you have a question or comment regarding the Chicago Bulls and their playoff chances against the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round of the playoffs, what did you think about this Bulls regular season as they finish up with the 46-36 mark? You can go to our YouTube page Just search for Sports Zone Chicago. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section. We'll get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, taking a look at the final statistics for the Chicago Bulls for this 2021-22 regular season. DeMar DeRozan led the team in points with 27.9 points per game average. Nikolai Vucevic, the only player on the team to lead to have a double-digit rebounding average. He had a solid 11 rebound per game average. Assists, DeMar DeRozan with 4.9. And steals, Javonte Green with 1 average and 1 steal per game. And Nikolai Vucevic led the team with 1 block, 1 point on blocks average per game. Lakeena, as we talked about this before in our last couple of shows, as I predicted before, between 46 and 48 wins for this team. But as the season started off hot for the team before COVID and before the injuries, and even through the All-Star break, this team was at the top of the Eastern Conference. I believe they only won 9 games since the All-Star break. They really stumbled into the playoffs. But when the season started, when everybody was healthy, including Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, this team was playing very well. Now, were they playing a little bit over their heads? You could say that. And DeMar DeRozan was having an MVP type season. Of course, after the All-Star break, he stumbled a little bit, but he still had a nice season. No one saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. You didn't see that coming, Lakeena. Of course, many experts and pundits said that the Bulls made one of the worst offseason moves, acquiring DeMar DeRozan. DeMar proved everybody wrong, and the Bulls fans were behind him. And he was in the MVP conversation for a while, and he got the All-Star nod with Zach LaVine this season. So I wanted to get your take on what was your assessment of this Bulls regular season. I think many people had them record-wise where they ended up, but the way the season started, especially, no one saw this train wreck come, especially following the All-Star break.
It's one of those things where, look, I figured the Bulls would win like between 45, 48 games. They ended up winning 46. So that's where I predicted. I mean, I kind of kept my expectations tempered, even when they had that hot start. They were the number one seed in the East for a while. Unfortunately, COVID and injuries and just they kind of just hit a wall. So this is sort of one of those days where, okay, we'll see. Look, Billy Donovan, like I said, this could be his first playoff experience as coach. You're going to be, some of these guys actually still have some playoff experience. Maybe not a lot of playoff experience, but they do have a lot of them. So, like I said, this is not going to be like there'll be nerves. I think they're kind of like flip the switch and we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, I think Bulls fans need to kind of temper their expectations. I'm hearing some people say, well, the future for the Bulls does look good and this and that. A lot of these doomer Bulls fans, not just Bulls Twitter, but other people who cover the Bulls that aren't that smart than the rest of us, but that's a whole nother thing. But I think the Bulls, will surprise some folks. I'm not going to say they're going to win this series against the Bucks, but I feel like they're going to push the Bucks as they usually are between these are two rivals. So, and plus the history and such. So yeah, this is going to be a good series. I feel like I think people need to kind of I'm not going to be one of those folks that are like, oh, well, the Bulls are going to get swept or, they're going to run out of the gym. That's not going to happen. It's not. So I think people need to just, sit back and chill and see how this team looks. And look, with Lonzo being gone, no, that's a big, hole there. But I think other guys will step up. But I think people just need to kind of just temper their expectations a bit.
I think as I looked at the Bulls so far this season, you look at some of the young guys that got Billy Donovan, head coach Billy Donovan, got more out of than we ever thought. Javonte Green, as I mentioned, that young man can jump out of the gym. I didn't know he was almost 30 years old. He's been bouncing around here and there.
Yeah.
And so it looks like he's finally found a home here in Chicago. I don't know what his contract status is, but I hope the Bulls can find a way to bring him back next year. Like I said, I don't know his contract status. I don't have the info in front of me, but I really like what the energy that young man brings. Of course, Patrick Williams, he's the freshest out of everybody right now because he's been playing ever since he came back from the injury a couple of weeks ago. Alex Caruso, as we mentioned, he's battling a back injury, but before he had the nasty wrist injury back in early January, he was making a difference with this team. As we told you guys before the start of the season, he was going to bring that energy off the bench, especially defensively from the perimeter. Is it a coincidence, Lakeena? I don't think so. When Caruso went out, the Bulls team defense, especially from the perimeter, has been terrible.
Yeah.
They're one of the best defensive rated teams in the NBA early in the season. once the injury started to hit, that kind of changed. Now, as I hate to use this term, Lakeena, but Bulls Twitter whipping boy Nikolai Vucevic, he played in 73 games this year. He averaged over 18 points per game, and he had 11 rebounds per game average. But we saw, especially early in the season, when he's a shooter, when he gets going offensively, especially from 3-point range, he's nearly unstoppable. But we noticed over the last month or so that Vucevic, when he has the advantage down low, he could take you in the post, but that's just not part of the game. He doesn't do that consistently. I want to see if they could do that in the playoffs in this series against Milwaukee. But we've seen at times that Nikolai Vucevic, when he can take over a game, scoring wise, he could do it. But just going down low in the post is just not part of his game. He could do that, but we haven't seen him do that consistently throughout the season.
It'll be interesting to see if we get to see more of the Towers thing with him and and Tristan Thompson. I wonder if that's going to be sort of the thing where are they going to play a little bit around more with that, especially who's going to have to get double Giannis, who's going to have the tough task of doing that. I mean, can the Chris Middleton? I'm sure they'll give it to him. Drew Holiday is probably one of the best perimeter guys in the league, especially defensive wise. So like I said before, this is gonna be an undertaking for the Bulls. I don't know where Bulls fans have their expectations. Like I said, I kept mine tempered. Of course, the other teams got better. Look, the Bulls' future looks bright. I think people need to kind of just say that. Well, the other teams' futures look brighter, and that's not the case. And I feel like people need to kind of, like I said, just temper their expectations and see how this Bulls team looks. Remember Lonzo's not there. We all know that they do need to improve their interior defense. I'm sure AK and everyone will discuss that, and we'll address that during the off season. But I think right now, people just need to just enjoy the basketball, and just who knows, maybe they will pull off the upset. Who knows? Maybe they can push the Bucks to 6 or 7. I'm not gonna look like we've seen like weird things happening in the playoffs. So I think people need to just sort of kind of, like I said, temper their expectations. And look, hopefully they can make a fight. The one thing that you're going to get from this team is that they're going to fight. And look, I think they're going to use it as motivation that folks are basically giving up on the Bulls this year. So I'm thinking that they're going to feed off that.
I think they will too. And one of the players that's going to have that attitude is Kobe White, as I mentioned at the top of the show. I think we said this last year, Lakeena. He's not a starting point guard in the NBA, and that's okay. He's your scorer / difference maker coming off the bench, and that's okay. We saw that with him this year in the role that he's been in since the start of the season. Now, as I mentioned before, he's having a horrible shooting slump, and you don't want that going into the playoffs. I want to. This will be his first time in the playoffs as well. I want to see if he could use that nervous energy on the bright lights and see if he could turn it around against Milwaukee. Now, we've seen some great moments from Kobe White this year so far, but we've seen some not so great moments from him. I know people are talking about him in possible trade scenarios coming up this summer, along with Vucevic and Patrick Williams. We'll get more into that on our next episode. But I want to see how Kobe White performs in his first playoff scenario with the lights bright on him. Will he be able to shine, and will he fall under the pressure? We'll soon find out.
I love the fact that those rumors this time of year from folks that probably have no clue what's going on. So I just we know how AK and Eversley operates, and they're not gonna say anything. They're not gonna put rumors out there. People are just going by their guessing, which I think is like the worst thing ever. But again, that's a whole nother conversation. We'll get into that with our panel on Friday. But yeah, I think Kobe, will probably use as motivation to sort of like, hey, you know what, I can still be a part of this piece that comes up. So, and also same thing with Vooch. Like I said before, I think Vooch is unjustly everyone's whipping boy. Hopefully especially now that he'll have a shot to showcase his talents in the playoffs that we don't get to see very much. So yeah, I can't. There are a lot of guys that have a place to prove. Zach's going to get his first taste of playoff basketball for the first time, and the Rose is it's back in the playoffs too. So you've got guys that have a lot to prove. So I think hopefully this will be a nice little foundation, and we get to see what happens next year. So I think people this is why folks are a lot smarter than I think folks want people to think that they're smarter. with comes to basketball and such. So I just think that I just roll my eyes when I hear people say, "Well, let's trade this guy for this guy." Oh, Anthony Davis might be out there. We'll get to the Lakers in this after the break, but it's just like, ooh, stop. Y'all just make yourselves look crazy.
We won't stop on right here on Second City Sports. We'll continue with our basketball talk. As Lakeena mentioned, there's more drama going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll get to that. The NBA playoff matchups are set. The play-in tournament starts tomorrow, and we'll give you the previews of those games coming up and a whole lot more from the basketball world. You're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Stay right there.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109, the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in the 11 color on the Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
And if you have a question or comment for us as we transition over to the NBA abroad, you can go to our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago, type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, as you mentioned before our break, there's more drama with the Los Angeles Lakers as they finish their regular season with 33 wins and 49 losses. Frank Vogel has gotten the boot, his pink slip and link card, as we used to say on this show. LeBron James met the media over an hour ago. He told reporters that he wasn't notified that Frank Vogel has been fired. I don't believe that 1 minute, but that's just my humble editorial opinion.
No. Apparently, Woj dropped the bomb. Adrian Wojnarowski with a new contract, says Adrian Wojnarowski, he dropped the bomb late last night saying that it looks like Frank Vogel will get the boot. Well, unfortunately, they asked Frank Vogel that, and he said, "I don't know nothing." He said another word, but we can't say that on air. But yeah, I don't know anything. And then I guess like you said, LeBron earlier, just about an hour ago, put it out there that, hey, I don't know nothing, which I find that hard to believe too, but that's a whole nother thing. But going into this, I mean, look, there's plenty of blame to go around for the Lakers, debacle. I know people want to blame Rob Pelinka, people want to blame LeBron, Frank Vogel didn't have to do a good job coaching. I think there's enough blame to go around for everybody. They could have had DeMar, they could have had DeRozan back. He wanted to come back to Los Angeles. That's where he's from. He went to USC for a minute there. You could have had Buddy Hield. Actually, there was a deal in place for Buddy Hield, but I guess supposedly LeBron kind of pulled the plug on that trade. They brought Carmelo in instead. So there's so much blame to go around. This team is underachieved. AD can't stay healthy, and and everything else. It's just just a terrible look for the Lakers. And I think this is like the 5th or 6th time that the since I guess this is the last Lakers championship before the bubble championship, as people call it. That they've been out of the playoffs a few times. So it seems to me there's a fundamental problem here too. Like I said, we'll ask our panel on Friday, but yeah, that seems to me that's where it starts. I feel like.
Yeah, it starts from the top down. GM Rob Pelinka is partially responsible for putting this roster together. As we said before on this show, LeBron, whenever you bring in such a big figure like LeBron James, you basically hand over the keys of the franchise to him, and this is exactly what happens. As we mentioned, DeMar DeRozan, he wanted to come back home. He wanted to play for the Lakers for whatever reason. That didn't end up working out. You had a trade in place for Buddy Hield. You chose Russell Westbrook over Buddy Hield, and you brought in Russell Westbrook. That just didn't work out. Russell Westbrook is almost like what happened with him this season, is almost like what happened with Allen Iverson, especially toward the end of his career, when he bounced around to a couple of different teams like Memphis and Detroit. He had trust issues. And you could say the same thing about Russell Westbrook. I like him personally as a player. He plays hard. Wish everybody had that passion, but they don't. But with that being said, I understand from Russell's point of view that you've been the man throughout your whole career, and you averaging triple doubles here and there. Now you had to take a reduced role. Now on the flip side, he had to know that going into a situation with LeBron and AD. But given the fact with the injuries and not his role being defined, things just didn't work out. Now the Lakers have 7 players under contract for next season. Around $149 million. They're $27 million over the salary cap, and Rob Pelinka has some work to do. Now, how can you get rid of Russell Westbrook? I don't know. You may have just had to flat out cut him. You're not going to get rid of Anthony Davis. I heard some people, including what's his face from the LA Times, Bill Plaschke. Trade LeBron James. That's not going to happen. You may have better luck trading Anthony Davis, but if you're the team on the other side of that, do you trust that Anthony Davis will stay healthy? Remember, he came into last season out of shape. That's how he got hurt in the first place. That's where he is right now. And so are you going to get very fair value for him? So that's why I think Anthony Davis, as of right now, he's going to be stuck with the Lakers. And the way he played in 2020, you thought that, okay, this is the guy that can be handed over the franchise to. That just hasn't happened. And the bigger question is, who's going to be their head coach? I think they'll wait till after the NBA Finals is over to announce their head coach. I know you hear rumors about Doc Rivers if Philadelphia should get the boot again early in the playoffs. David Fizdale, who I like to see coach the team, he did this year when Frank Vogel had the beer bug. But do you really want David Fizdale to be thrown into that situation? I don't think so. And it's all going to have to come down to, is this head coach comfortable with working with LeBron James?
Also, too, Juwan Howard's name's been floated around as such. But if you're Juwan Howard, I know you had some issues with Michigan and your behavior and such. But look, you made it to the Sweet 16 when a lot of people think you didn't deserve to be in the tournament. So are you gonna leave there? And you said yourself that you didn't want to leave until you let Michigan to a championship. So do you break that promise there? Or maybe he could work with LeBron, but again, do you want to deal with the headache of all that stuff, especially with the money situation, and you got guys under contract, and there's gonna be a lot of money being floated around, and I know because the AD rumors we talked about like a couple of weeks back, because some folks in Chicago were saying, "Hey, let's bring AD to Chicago." You don't want to deal with that headache. If you're AK and Mark Evans, do you really want to deal with that headache, especially if you're in that win now mode? You're not gonna want to do that. You're not gonna mortgage half your guys to. No, you're not doing that. So that's a bunch of BS there as well. So there's just so much the Lakers got to think about, and there's so much pieces that got to be moved and such. So it's just at this point, I think, look, I'm not saying that it can't be fixed, but they're going to have to do a lot of, have to be creative and moving a lot of these pieces, because at this point, the way this team is set up, this team not set up to win. They're gonna have to get rid of some guys, and a lot of it's what they're all making. They may have to cut Westbrook, like you said. They may have to maybe cut Carmelo. They may have to trade Carmelo so they can get something for him. You're not gonna get. The thing is that you're not gonna get a lot for a lot of these guys. I think that's the thing that the Lakers people have to realize.
And they're one of the oldest teams in the league, and so we had to keep that in mind as well. And also, too, the Lakers do not own the first round pick until 2025. So there's a lot of work to do in that front office for the Los Angeles Lakers going forward. Now, Lakeena, before we get into our previews for the play-in tournament games from both the Eastern and Western conferences, what stood out to you the most this season? What was some of your observations throughout this NBA regular season?
Also, gotta give a shout out to Joel Embiid. He becomes the first true center since Shaq in '99 and 2000 to win the scoring title. Will probably very likely end up being the MVP. I know some people are saying that maybe Nikola Jokic has made a late push. We talked about all the numbers that he has done, but we've seen how they play without him, and they're they're number 3 seed in their Eastern Conference. So. It's sort of one of those things are you going to give it to a guy that, that has literally done things for you, or are you going to give it to Jokic again, who, yes, he's basically playing it, by himself, with a lot of other stuff, the injuries and whatnot, with other guys. Now, but they're a 6th seed in the West. I know people have this sort of recency bias here, but, who knows? But I think Embiid should get the MVP. I'm just saying. But we'll see how everything else is. I mean, it's not just the scoring. He's been dominant on the inside. He can shoot the 3 and such. And he's like a guy that kind of keeps the piece together with his team. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the voters decide to do. But, you never know how some of these voters are at times. But I think that stood out. I know what Phoenix has done that stood out to me as well. I think the Suns are even better than they were last year. They finished
I agree.
On the road,
Yep.
32-9 on the road, which is the best of any other home team's winning percentage, believe it or not. I mean, there's just a second team to do that. Get all the way back to the Knicks in 1970. That team ended up winning the championship, so this could be a good omen for the Suns. We'll see how they do in the playoffs. But what the Suns been able to do, especially without CP3 for those a couple weeks they were out, the fact that they were actually scored better averages and also won. So it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, you got Devin Booker. You got DeAndre Ayton looked really good. Of course, CP3, Jay Crowder has been a big, really good pickup for them. So I think the Suns should be kind of like, I'm not gonna say it's the Suns and the rest of the field in the West because they got like a lot of tough teams in the West. But I feel like they're showing you that hey, last season was not a fluke.
Yeah, one of the observations for me for this past season was the Phoenix Suns. They are motivated from what happened last year, blowing that 2-0 series lead to the Milwaukee Bucks, basically handed them the championship. Like you said, they're better than ever this year. Devin Booker has taken another step. I agree with you that Joel Embiid should win MVP, but I think Devin Booker's right there with them, especially as we talked about before over the last few weeks on these shows, that Devin Booker has improved his play a whole lot more when CP3 went down around the All-Star break. And so the Phoenix is going to be strong. And we'll give you our playoff predictions, as Lakeena mentioned, on our next show coming up this Friday right here on Chicago. Oh, no, Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. But also, too, this team has been under the radar over the last month or so because of injuries. But the way they started the season, it was remarkable. That's the Golden State Warriors. Remember, Klay Thompson did come back to after the calendar year in January. And you saw the difference that he's making with the Golden State Warriors right now. I know Steph Curry is currently out with the injury. Hopefully he's going to return for the playoffs this coming weekend. But Steph Curry early in the season was playing at an MVP type level. Jordan Poole, as our guy Josh Hicks mentioned, he had a good year, surprisingly good year last year. He was on his way to another surprising good season. Of course, Draymond Green has been hurt all year. And Steve Kerr and the Warriors coaching staff, they just keep plugging guys in and plugging guys in. Andrew Wiggins had a surprising good year, earned a trip to the All-Star game. Toscano Anderson, another surprising young player, had a good year for the Warriors this year. So Golden State, if they stay healthy, could make a surprise win in the playoffs.
Also, too, you gotta say Memphis and what they've done. I mean, I think do I think they could go all the way to to the Western Conference Finals and win the Western Conference Finals? They end up playing Phoenix. I mean, sure, but I think the fact that a lot of these guys don't have playoff experience, and I think they're you know they kind of snuck up on folks. After what happened last year, they almost made the main tournament, and look, it'll be interesting to see what they do here because I know John Morant's been kind of in and out of the lineup. He's been banged up a little bit. They've actually been playing good without him. But also, too, the problem is that you're going to need him in the playoffs, I feel like. So we'll see what they do. We'll see how they look. And I know they lost to Boston their last game of the season. But you know what? I mean, it's, I think they were resting guys. They already clinched the 2 seed and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do because guys are going to have to step up. And we'll see if the youth of this team, comes back to bite them. I know Jay Williams has them going to the NBA Finals. I mean, that could happen. But like you said, this is sort of when you have a young, scrappy team, and not a lot of people know too much about them. But you're also going to have folks that are going to be ready. And I think the fact that people are going to be gunning for for the Grizzlies, they're now the hunted now. I'm not going to say they'll be like Phoenix of last year, but it depends on the matchup. We'll see who they get in that that play, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's really going to depend on that.
Yeah, his name escapes me, but their head coach is the hands down NBA coach of the year. No one expected them to win close to 60 games, and like you mentioned, this team has played better without John Morant being hurt. Now, in the long run, as the playoffs get started, do you need John Morant? Absolutely. But in the short term, these guys, Desmond Bain, Jared Jackson, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, these guys have really stepped up and played that role to perfection. And so Memphis is not a team that you want to ignore. If you do, you're going to be caught with your pants down.
Taylor Jenkins is the name of the head coach. He's only
Taylor
37.
Jenkins. I had to remember his name. Taylor Jenkins.
He's only 37.
Shout out to you, young man.
Yeah, I'll say he's only 37, and I think he's definitely going to get a lot of love for Coach of the Year honors because I don't think anybody thought, especially after John Morant got hurt early in the season, out for about like 10 or 12 games, no one thought that they would, actually would win any games or not too many games. So, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be, if, like I said before, I mean, teams are going to be gunning for them now too, whoever they get to play in the play-in game. So that's going to be another thing that's going to, going to deter them. And like you said before, if John Morant is still a little bit banged up, that's a whole nother thing. And another guy that's banged up too is Luka. Apparently he got hurt in the last game of the season. You wonder why was he even playing? But that's a whole nother thing as well. So, there hasn't been any updates. I've been looking to see, the updates on that, on that calf injury, but it looks like it's significant, at least according to what Woj said. So that's another injury to look out for too as we get into playoffs. And that's the last thing you want if you're the Mavs. Just when you thought that maybe you're starting to kind of get into a rhythm, but then your best player gets hurt, it's just like just bad timing.
You listen to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. You have a question or a comment regarding the NBA playoffs, the play-in tournament, just go to our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago, type in your questions and comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, before we give you our preview for the play-in tournament, which kicks off tomorrow night on the Tuesday, what were some of your disappointing players or mostly disappointing teams from the association this year?
Oh boy. I don't think I really had a disappointing team. I think the things kind of, went as expected. I thought the Knicks were going to be like actually, better than they were last year. It looks like things are starting to, going
looks like Coach
downhill.
Tibbs may lose his job.
Yeah,
And Randall possibly getting traded.
Yeah, and we told you guys, y'all thought we were crazy, but we told you that look, the Coach Tibbs experiment, usually that's that lasts for like a good year or two, but then, and then you're seeing what happened right now. So yeah, I think the Knicks are a pretty disappointing team. Of course, the Lakers, I think that's, of course, that goes without saying. We talked about that. Portland's been kind of disappointing as well, because you thought that maybe, then they traded McCollum, and then, now, Dame got hurt, and we'll see. I know Dave's saying all the right things. Hey, I want to stay here, but, we'll see if he really means that at this point as we get closer and closer. He is getting older now. He's over 30. So yeah, those are kind of like my disappointments. Everything else, like I said, kind of what is expected. I figured Cleveland would go, would come back to earth a little bit after the hot start they had early this season, like the Bulls. That's what they did. Denver, I mean, with Murray and Michael Porter Jr. still out. I mean, that's and that kind of they kind of went back there. Utah, they kind of disappointed a little bit. I know Donovan Mitchell was out for a little bit. I know Engels, got hurt. He's out for the year, but you thought that maybe they would be right up there at the top 3. That's then not being the case for them either. So those are kind of like my disappointments. What are yours?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the New York Knicks, Coach Tibbs, after taking advantage of a weak Eastern Conference last year, they finished 4th, of course, before losing to the Hawks in the first round of the playoffs. This year, I believe they will come back down to earth, but I didn't think it would be this bad. So, as I mentioned, Coach Tibbs may get the pink slip and link card. Julius Randle may get traded. Will the Knicks give fair value for him? I'm not sure. Randle was an all-star last year and won, I believe, Most Improved Player of the Year award. He has been nothing close to that this year. The Washington Wizards, I thought they would be a little bit better. I know they picked up Kristaps Porzingis at the trade deadline in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie, who's making a big difference with the Dallas Mavericks. Bradley Beal injured again. His name's been in trade talks for the last 5-6 years. Will the Wizards ever pull the trigger of getting rid of him and trading him to a contending team? We shall see. I know there's been rumors that Bradley Beal wants to join Philadelphia. How that's going to happen, how they're going to make that happen, I don't know. But those are the 2 teams that stand out to me as far as being disappointments this year.
A lot of disappointments too. Any disappointing players?
I can't think of any offhand. Really, I can't really think outside of Julius Randle, maybe, but outside of that, is no other player that comes up to mind. If you have any, for those of you listening and watching out there, if you have any disappointing players, please let us know in the comment section on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. But Julius Randle will stand out to me.
Yeah, I think that's probably really the only one, right? You thought that maybe after the hot start he had in the playoffs, and especially at the end of the season, you thought that maybe, just maybe, that they were gonna, he was gonna be even better, be right there for the MVP discussion, but that turned out not to be the case. So, we'll see where he is up next year, because looks like that's gonna be, he'll probably be on his way out. Now going into the play-in, these games are both tomorrow and Wednesday. These games tomorrow will be on TNT, the doubleheader. The first game will be Cleveland and Brooklyn. Cleveland struggled. Like I said before, they kind of fell back to earth as I figured they would. Jared Allen is still out, it looks like. So that's going to be another issue. And, it's the good news is it's going to be at home. So now the Kyrie will play. So, and the winner of this game, I believe, will play, I think.
Excuse me, I think they'll play the Boston Celtics.
Boston, I think that's how that's how they're going to play Boston. So, who do you think wins this? I think Brooklyn will win it. And I'm not going to say they're going to win it handily, because I want to think Cleveland will have a shot. But I think, Brooklyn's on a mission. I think KD had a big, showing last night in the last game of the season. So I think he'll put the team on his back and they'll propel him to it. And there's actually rumors now that Ben Simmons might actually play this game tomorrow. We'll take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, we don't have to face Philadelphia right now. Maybe I'll give it a go.
Well, I'm taking Brooklyn.
I'm taking Brooklyn as well. You're going to have big games for both Kyrie and Kevin Durant. I want to see who's going to be that third guy for Brooklyn. Patty Mills, who's been that third guy all year, the veteran for San Antonio for those championship runs years ago. He started off hot early in the season. He's been struggling lately. I want to see what kind of game that he's going to have. On the flip side for Cleveland, this is going to be their first run through a playoff type situation. Darius Garland, who deserved that all-star nod, along with my guy, Jared Allen. Like you mentioned, Allen is out, so that's really going to hurt Cleveland. But I want to see what Darius Garland does in this situation. And Karis LeVert, let's not forget him. He could be an X factor as well, the former Brooklyn Net and Indiana Pacer. He's shown signs that it was a right acquisition that the Cavaliers front office made at the All-Star, just right before the All-Star break. And so watch out for Karis LeVert. Like you mentioned, I think Cleveland's going to give Brooklyn a slight scare, but Brooklyn should win this one. Not comfortably, but they'll pull it out in the last few minutes.
Should be a fun one there. And the last game tomorrow, over in the Western Conference, you got the Clippers and the T-Wolves. Some good news for T-Wolves fans. Chris Finch, who was this kind of like a one-year trial for him. He got a multi-year contract, including also the rest of his staff as well. So congrats to him and what they've done to that team. The Clippers look like PG starting to Paul George starting to find his rhythm a little bit. Probably the perfect time for that to happen. So I'm gonna say I think this is gonna be close because they're playing on the road at Minnesota. But I think the playoff experience for the Clippers, I think, will win out for guys like Karl Anthony Towns, and that that this is gonna be their first his first time in the playoffs. It'll be another close one too, but I think the Clippers win this one on the road.
You stealing my picks, but I'm going with you anyway. I'm going with the Clippers, as you mentioned. Paul George is on the roll ever since he's coming back. Ever since he's come back from his injury a few weeks ago. Tyronn Lue has been coaching his tail off all season long with his superstars missing. I know some people are saying that Kawhi Leonard could make an appearance should the Clippers get into the actual playoffs. We'll see about that. But Terrence Mann, Nicholas Batum, and some of the other young guys have been playing their tails off all year. I know Robin Covington, Chicago guy who was acquired from Portland at the trade deadline, has been making a huge difference with that team as well. So in Reggie Jackson, let's not forget him. He was one of their surprising young stars that he's a veteran now,
Yes.
but he had a good playoff season with the Clippers last year. So because of that experience, Lakeena, and the way Paul George is playing, he's the freshest out of everybody on those two teams. I'm going with the Clippers.
Should be a fun one, and the winner of that game will play number 2 Memphis in the main playoff draw. Now on to Wednesday's matchup. These games are going to be on ESPN. You got Charlotte and Atlanta. I'm going to pick Atlanta here. I feel this is sort of like the time when Trae Young shines, and I think the playoff experiences from last year for Charlotte. This is going to be for a lot of these guys. It's going to be their first taste of the playoffs. So it's like we all see the situations when that happens. So it's going to be close. So I know these teams split their regular season series, but I think Atlanta will pull it off, and they'll pull away late, I think.
As we mentioned, Lakeena, the Charlotte Hornets had a bad losing streak going into the All-Star break, but they quietly picked it up ever since the All-Star break. They finished the regular season tied with Atlanta with a 43-39 record. Atlanta's been up and down to me this year, Lakeena, but we pretty much expected it because they were one of the few teams to take advantage of other teams' injuries last year. And you saw them go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, many people think that this is the real Atlanta Hawks. That may be correct. I think Atlanta will win this game because they're at home. But don't dismiss what Charlotte's been doing, folks. I know they were in this situation last year. They got blasted by the Indiana Pacers in the play-in tournament last year. But this is a better Charlotte team. You still got Scary Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward. PJ Washington has been playing well. He's known for other things, but we won't get into that. That's not part of this conversation. But they still have some young guys over there. Miles Bridges, he's been showing up. So I think it's going to be a closer game than what people expect. But I think Atlanta's going to pull it out. Atlanta's favored by 4.5.
Don't forget LaMelo either. LaMelo Ball as well. So he's another
first time All-Star this year. Yeah.
Yeah. So this should be probably the most exciting of the 4 play-ins. This could go down to this could get down to maybe whoever first to 130, I think, could win this one. But we'll see what happens there. And the Western Conference play in the second one, you got the San Antonio Spurs and New Orleans Pelicans. I don't think anybody thought, especially with everything that went on with the Pelicans, I think people thought that maybe especially with with everything else going on with Zion and whatnot. So the fact that they were able to kind of pull it off, got into a little bit of a run and were able to sneak into the play-in, especially take advantage of what the Lakers, what they weren't able to do. So, but I mean, they got the Spurs, you got some seasoned guys on there, got Dejounte Murray, among others on that team. For the Pelicans, for some of these guys, I think this could be a very interesting. This probably maybe the most intriguing playoff. I feel like. What do you think?
Yeah, the Spurs went down there in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago and beat the Pelicans. This is not going to be an easy game for either team. First of all, give Coach Greg Popovich a shout out to get the Spurs in this situation. No one, including you, surely expected them to be in this situation. Same thing on the other side for Willie Green. Remember him as a former NBA player. Started out his career with the Philadelphia 76ers after the Allen Iverson era. He's got his team with the Pelicans playing well right now, as you mentioned. Jackson Hayes and Brandon Ingram, a former All-Star from a couple of years ago. They're doing it without Zion Williamson. And they still have a few young guys that has been picking it up lately. So remember, they still have Jonas Valanciunas. seasoned veteran from his days in Toronto with DeMar DeRozan and those guys from a few years ago. So New Orleans, I really like the way they move the basketball. They have a little bit more of a scoring threat than what the Spurs do. Just because they're at home, I'm going with New Orleans, but I think San Antonio is going to keep it close. It's not going to be a blowout.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where if you look at the Pelicans, you think, "Oh my god!" And look, Tony Snell's out there over there too. So,
he's still hanging on.
He's still hanging on. They're also Larry Nance Jr. too as well. So yeah, it could be one of those. I think like you said, I think the Spurs will keep it close, but I think the Pelicans will pull away late. This is going to be one of those things where I know they didn't finish the season very well. I think they lost like 3 in a row. I think those last few games, but I think they did just enough to get into the play-in, and like you said, with everything else going on with the Lakers and such, they were able to take advantage of that. But I think the Pelicans will win this, I feel like, late.
In the NBA play-in tournament will conclude on Friday with one game each from the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Of course, the NBA playoffs as a whole will get going on Saturday. As Lakeena mentioned, we'll have our special NBA Bulls playoff preview show coming up this Friday between noon and 2 right here on Live in Living Color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's on Friday. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to Second City Sports live on a Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, both Chicago baseball teams are in first place. Go figure. We have drama also at the Masters. And a question for you sports fans out there. Which game or games you refuse to watch? Which games you refuse to watch as a sports fan from your favorite teams? We'll discuss that and a whole lot more as you're listening to Second City Sports live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight, 126-109, the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 60 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a sports show. If you have a question or comment for us during any of our topics for the last hour, you can go to our YouTube page and search for Sports Zone Chicago. Place your comments and questions in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's kick off hour number 2 of Second City Sports. the Monday edition. Let's discussing Chicago baseball. We'll go with my White Sox first. One, because I said so. And number two, because I said so. The White Sox take 2 out of 3 from the hated Detroit Tigers and winning the series finale yesterday in Motown by the score of 10-1. Andrew Vaughn blasted a 3-run home run to open the game up for the Southsiders. Tim Anderson made his return from suspension from last season. He was suspended for the first 2 games of the season. He made his return yesterday, going 3 for 5 in Lakeena. Couple of things from yesterday's game. Michael Kopech pitched well for 4 innings with 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. He gave up a run, an earned run. He looked very good throwing 70 pitches yesterday. A couple of things that I took away from the game yesterday. The Detroit Tigers made 2 errors. The White Sox took advantage of them. When you're a good team, you're supposed to take advantage of the other team's mistakes. That's what the Sox did yesterday. Michael Kopech looked good yesterday. So I know some folks on Sox Twitter didn't think that he looked that great. I don't know what the hell they were watching yesterday, but Kopech was okay. The White Sox bullpen bounced back in the last 2 games after that terrible performance by Liam Hendriks on Friday. The White Sox did what they had to do with the injuries to their starting pitching staff. As of right now, the offense will have to carry this group until they get some of the guys back. Lucas Giolito, if you missed the news from the weekend, Lucas Giolito, who started the season on Friday, left the game early with an injury. He's going to miss the next 2 starts. Lance Lynn is already down. And Dylan Cease for Saturday's game looked great with 8 strikeouts through 6 innings, which helped the White Sox win their first game of the year. The White Sox won their second game of the year yesterday. So it was all about the offense, Lakeena, and it was all about the starting pitching. That's what I took away from this series against the Tigers this past weekend.
Well, look, they were able to bounce back from that any of that weird game, with Javi Baez. It just hit the ball just hit like the yellow part of the Myers sign, but it's sort of crazy. But they were able to bounce back. Well, they do what you're supposed to when you have like a weird games like that. They were able to bounce back. Gio, looked good, before he got hurt and he had to be sidelined for the next couple of weeks. So another injury for the White Sox. But Tim Anderson, his first game back, didn't miss a beat. For that last game of the series. So, look, I think if you're a White Sox fan, I think you'll take 2 out of 3 from the Tigers. And look, Michael Kopech looked good because I'm sure he's going to be dependent on more, especially starting wise. So I think if you're the White Sox, I think you'll take a 2 out of 3 series, and look, you look good, and look, you did what you're supposed to do. You took advantage of some of the bad errors by the Tigers, and you're able to kind of use it to your advantage. And like you said, Tim Anderson looked good, and everyone else looked really good. And look, I think this is a good start. Other than that weird home run, but it was actually ended up being a good start for the Sox. So you'll take it.
And shout out to Sox reliever Tanner Banks. He came in and finished the last 2 innings yesterday in a rout for the White Sox. He had 4 strikeouts in total, and he did not give up a run. As we talked about before the season, Lakeena, this bullpen is going to be key. We saw what the potential could be with the Sox bullpen last year, but Craig Kimbrell wasn't in his right role, and things just weren't right when the Houston Astros beat him in the playoffs last year. Kendall Graveman, their free agent acquisition from the Houston Astros, actually has looked good so far. As I mentioned, Tanner Banks. The only ugly spot was Liam Hendriks, what he did on Friday, not blowing the game not once but twice. But I have faith that he's going to figure it out and bounce back. So you're upset at what happened on Friday, but Liam Hendriks should bounce back and he'll be okay. But Lakeena, did you see? I want to say around the 5th or 6th inning, your guy Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, I know.
Almost had another.
He collided with Robert, and I was not happy about that.
I thought of you when I saw it yesterday. Like, really?
Oh, you got to be kidding me! And I'm like, oh, thankfully neither of them got hurt, which is a good thing, because of it. The Sox team doesn't need any more injuries. But I mean, they're going to be going through this a lot throughout the year. So I'm just like, brother, okay, this is going to be a theme here every couple of games. They're going to be guys are going to be, banging each other, and I'm sure Eloy is going to be hitting, walls and fences, and it's just like, oh, good Lord, you got to be freaking kidding me. But thankfully, neither of them got, were hurt, which is a good thing. But there's gonna be a theme here throughout the season, folks. You just have to bear with me. But I mean, look, Eloy looks good, Theo as well. So yeah, I think, like I said, if you're a Sox fan, you'll take, the series. Like you beat, the Tigers, the rest of the games pretty handily. So okay, yeah, I'm sure you would love to have that game back. Hendricks, blew it, twice, but and the weird way that game ended. But look, I mean, look, you look good in that rubber match in it. So you got to be feeling pretty good if you're a White Sox fan right now.
And speaking of Eloy Jimenez, I'll mention his bat and not his fielding. He had 2 RBI yesterday, and also Jose Abreu quietly putting up some numbers again. He had 2 RBI as well yesterday. Andrew Vaughn, who should be in the starting lineup every day, he had 4 RBI, including a 3-run blast in the 7th inning, which opened the game up for the White Sox. So the White Sox, as expected, Lakeena, with the injuries to their starting staff, the offense has to carry them. Now, with the series coming up against the Seattle Mariners starting tomorrow, yours truly will be there, by the way. So follow me on social media for that. And our guy, Sean Sierra from the morning show, right on Sports Zone Chicago, he said on his show today that he's going to be there. So we'll probably have to track each other down. We'll let you know what happens on Friday. But as far as the series coming up against Seattle, they have 3 games with the Seattle Mariners to open up their home portion of the schedule. Tomorrow's game will be at 3:05 p.m. The weather looks great. It's going to be near 70 degrees. So when's the last time the White Sox had a home opener with that great weather? It's been a long time. So we know what April weather brings to the city of Chicago. So that should be great. Wednesday doesn't look so good. So that Wednesday game is probably will be pushed back to a day-night doubleheader on Thursday to wrap up their series against Seattle before Tampa Bay comes to calling for the weekend series. So the Sox should still get off to a good start. Tampa's not going to be easy. Seattle's not going to be easy either.
I was going to say.
Yes, they're not going to be easy either, but I still expect it to take at least 2 out of 3.
And the weather's supposed to be, it's going to be weird too, those first couple of games and those first couple of series too at home. So something to look out for there as well. And I'll go into the north side for a second. Going for the Cubs. The Cubs lose a rubber match. They didn't get the sweep. That would have been a good start for them had they gotten the sweep against the Brewers. But you know what? They were able to get the first couple of games. And their offense was actually ironically they shut them out on Saturday. 9-0. Justin Steele had a great start for the Cubs, and the bats, the backs have looked really good. I mean, Shohei Suzuki, had Seiya Suzuki, yeah.
Sorry,
all right. He had 3 hits. He had 3 runs during that game. Ian Happ had a walk, RBI, and also 2 scored on a wild pitch. So that was great. Also 2 had an RBI single. So he had 2 2 runs in that front, in that game. And Stroman in his first start as a Cub, it was definitely, it kind of went down to a wire. There were a couple of calls I heard that, that didn't go the Cubs' way. That's why, Mike Brasso was able to, have that pinch hit home run on the 8th that kind of, that clinched it for the Brewers and, avoided the sweep for them. But if you're a Cubs fan, you got to be looking pretty good right now. I mean, you got your pitch has been really solid. Your hitting's been really good. Like I said, no one's really expecting the Cubs to contend. But at the same time, if you can kind of get right there at 500, you can kind of do like a building block for the next couple of years. But also too, happy birthday to the Bush Yami, just celebrated his 52nd birthday today. Today's his birthday, so happy birthday to him. But also too, I mean, look, for the Cubs, this actually, they actually look pretty decent. The start in this series.
Yeah, Seiya Suzuki has really come on. He's the rookie that the Cubs picked up from Japan. He had that 3 RBI game on Saturday. He had that monster home run yesterday, even though it resulted in a loss. But it looks like he's going to be a very good player for the Cubs, their rookie outfielder. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be rookie of the year. We're only 3 games in, but if he can keep hitting like that, heaven forbid that he can hit like that once the weather gets warm if you're an opponent. Because as we mentioned before, April weather in Chicago is nothing to play with, and what that young man's doing right now is just amazing. Now, you mentioned Marcus Stroman yesterday. I was able to check out some of the game yesterday. He was playing up to the crowd. It seems like he truly wanted to be here in Chicago. And his stat line from yesterday reads like this: 5 innings pitched. He gave up 1 home run. he threw 79 pitches, but he had 3 walks along with 3 strikeouts. His control was kind of iffy early, but as the game went on, he started to get it together. He only gave up 2 hits along with 1 run and an earned run as well. So Marcus Stroman, it looks like he's getting off to a good start for the Cubs. As we mentioned, Lakeena, who's going to step up as that third guy in the starting rotation after Hendricks and Stroman?
And that's going to be the number one question. Justice Steele had a nice start so far. We'll see if he's that guy. I know that there are a couple other guys are out there that might do it, but again, we'll see. I mean, look, everything's kind of open ended for the Cubs. I think if you can kind of get to the point where you're kind of like, okay, at least make it interesting. We'll see. I mean, we'll do Drew Smiley against Zach Thompson. For they start their series against Pittsburgh tomorrow. So we'll
that's
see.
Pittsburgh's home opener.
Yeah, so we'll see how they look. Especially they're gonna be rested because their game against St. Louis was postponed. Pittsburgh was, so we'll see. I'm sure they're gonna be rested and ready to go. So yeah, we'll see who sets up for the Cubs. Hitting, I don't think will be a problem by them. It's gonna be the pitching. So, but so far they've looked good.
Yeah, and also too, Ian Happ was injured, had to leave the game yesterday, so we'll see if he'll be available for the Pittsburgh series, which starts tomorrow. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we talk Chicago baseball and MLB abroad. Lakeena, let's expand to the rest of the league. Before we get to the rest of the results from the weekend, did you get a chance to catch any of the Apple TV games from Friday?
No, and I actually saw the clip where Jeremy Pena hit his first career home run while I don't know who that was that were interviewing. She was interviewing his parents, but there you saw the joy on their faces. So I saw a clip of it. I didn't see I don't have Apple TV, so I didn't get to see the games from this weekend.
Yeah, Apple TV is offered on my cable system, so I was actually able to check out some of that. The first game was Washington and the Mets, and the crew for that game was Brooke Fletcher, who was the field reporter for that game, and the announcing team was Chris Young, Hannah Kaiser, and I forgot who the play-by-play was. Melanie Newman, and so that was the crew for that game. The second game was the Angels in Houston. Steven Nelson, Chicago's very own and White Sox fan, was the lead was the lead voice for that one, along with Katie Nolan and Hunter Pence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a good analyst. I really do. I happened to check out some of that, and so I watched some of that. Hunter Pence, for those of you that may have forgot, he was part of those San Francisco Giants teams last decade. They won the World Series every other year. 2010, 2012, and 2014. He was one of those colorful personalities. He was a very good player for those San Francisco Giant teams. I think he's going to be a good one. He just needs a little bit more seasoning. And Heidi Whitney was a field reporter for that game as well.
That's probably who she was talking. That's probably who was talking to Jeremy Pena's parents, because that was that Astros Angels game. Pena. So he was talking to. They were talking to her, his parents, whereas he was hitting the home run. So that was a pretty cool moment. And I mean. We'll see. I mean, how the ratings are, because I feel like I said before, I've seen on Twitter that folks are not pleased the fact that these games are going to be on Apple TV, and on the home front they're going to be blacked out. We talked about it.
Those Friday. Are exclusive national broadcasts, so it's not available on your local market.
Yeah. So I'm just saying this isn't a good look, but we'll see here. But I'm sure Hunter Pence will be just fine. I think, he's got a great personality, so I'm sure once he gets some seat, I'm sure he'll fit right in. What caught your attention this weekend in the majors?
The Colorado Rockies taking 2 out of 3 from the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you're a Dodgers fan,
fans are already
yeah, fire Dave Roberts, even though they gave him an extension before the season. Fire Dave Roberts. This team's overrated. Don't buy. If you're a smart fan, like most of us, I'm not a Dodgers fan. I respect them, but if you're really a true blue Dodgers fan, you're not happy. But firing Dave Roberts is not going to get it done. Chris Bryant is making a huge difference for that Rockies team already. Do I have them going to the playoffs? No. But if you know the history of the rivalry between these two teams, the Dodgers always have trouble in Colorado. But when Colorado plays Los Angeles in Dodger Stadium, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. So I think people need to kind of just just chill with that. I think they need to chill on that. But also too, I think Toronto. I know they lost the road match against Texas. Those are some really for that Friday matchup. I think Toronto came back from I think like they were down like 7-0 or something like that, and they came back to win 10-8. It's the largest comeback in the season opener. That was their season opener. But
we told you watch out for Toronto.
Yeah, and so I have them win the division. So I gotta look good there, Blue Jays. But yeah, they looked really good. I mean, their hitting's not gonna be a problem. I think they are gonna have to shore up their pitching, like we talked about, Sid. But yeah, I like what I see so far from Toronto. Another team that I gotta say has been pretty impressive. And I hate saying this. I know our girl Christy Manica from KXRP is not gonna be happy. Houston looked really good so far this year. I hate to say, to say that, but they did lose to the Angels on Saturday 2-0. Noah Syndergaard looked really good, but his debut for the Angels. But it was good to see Justin Verlander out there because he hadn't played in a couple of years. He didn't play till like right before the pandemic started. So it was solid, but again, I'm sure he's going to take him a couple of games to get back into rhythm with his pitching. So that's going to be, I think people need to kind of, just give him some time on that. The Yankees looked really good. I know they lost the road match against the Red Sox, but they won 2 out of 3. So if that's the best, you can hope for. And of course, Tampa. I mean, they swept Baltimore. I think the only reason is Baltimore going to win 60 this year. But what about you?
Before we move on, speaking of the Yankees Red Sox game, did you happen to check out the main broadcast or the debut of the Michael K. A-Rod
yes,
Statcast?
I saw that. Jeez. So yeah, that was an interesting experience. I'll say that. That was an experience.
I know Michael K is the regular TV voice for the Yankees during the regular season on the Yes Network, and I know he has a local radio show on the ESPN affiliate in New York City. But I saw some of that. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting experience. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
What caught your attention this weekend in the majors?
Right. Now sticking with the Red Sox and Yankees on the broadcast from last night. Did you catch the moment where Kike Hernandez, he was mic'd up for the Boston Red Sox?
I saw that. Yeah.
And they were asking him what we're going to do in this situation. They were up 3-1. And Anthony Rizzo, former Cub, was at the plate. We're going to try to keep them to 1 run. And he said exactly what happened.
He did want to say that's what happened. So, yeah, that was pretty funny. But, yeah, I think people were asking for the Powerball numbers for Wednesday. But, yeah, that was actually pretty funny. I actually caught a little bit of that. So that was actually pretty hilarious. But I think if you're baseball, especially with all the labor stuff that was happening during these last few months, you need this type of thing. So. I think having these type of little days of that having interview guys while they're playing, I think it's pretty funny too.
Yeah, I don't think they're not going to do it for the playoffs, obviously, because those games are too important. But I like what the ESPN is doing, and I think the White Sox are going to be on there sometime next month. So they're probably going to put a mic on Tim Anderson.
Oh Lord, that should be. The always colorful Tim Anderson. But yeah, well. It should be interesting, though. We'll see what happens there. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee, talking some baseball here. A great opening weekend and such. Games also on Apple TV, so all that. But talking about the games, the series are going to be coming up this week. At least for a part of this week. Cleveland and Kansas City. Also, too, that's going on right now as we speak. ESPN Plus, exclusive on ESPN Plus. You got Milwaukee and Baltimore, Colorado and Texas. That's a 3:05 game starting today. That's started that series as well. Boston, Detroit, they begin their series. Oakland and Tampa Bay. We'll see if Tampa Bay can stay undefeated there. I think they're the only undefeated team, if I'm not mistaken, in the major leagues. Mets and Philly on FS1 at 5:45.
Yeah, the Mets they blew a golden opportunity yesterday to sweep the Nationals. I watched the end of that game. Oof. I'm not going to say that the Mets bullpen is going to be garbage, but they played like it yesterday. They should have had that game.
They were terrible. They played like no. That's not going to work. Toronto, another good one here. Toronto and the Yankees. That should be a fun one. Washington and Atlanta, that should be a good one too. Seattle and Minnesota, they start their Midwest road trip. The Mariners do.
Yeah, congrats to Carlos Correa for the Twins. He hit his first home run as a member of the Twins yesterday.
Yes, he did. So That should be a fun series. Miami and the Angels. That should be an interesting one too. San Diego and San Fran, they start their series, so we'll see. That should be a fun one there as well. Of course, Chicago and Pittsburgh, they start their series tomorrow at 3:12. Seattle and Chicago too, they start their series at 3:10. That's on ESPN Plus. Mets and the Phillies for Tuesday tomorrow. That's on the MLB Network. Who else starts their series?
The Battle of Ohio between the now Guardians and
Cleveland.
the Reds.
Yeah, 3:10, the first game up. So I'm sure they're going to be off for that game as well for that first game. So yeah, so those are your various series coming up this week. Boston and Detroit. That's going to be on ESPN Plus on Wednesday. So look out for that if you're an ESPN Plus subscriber. So so great series to go for this early part of the season.
And the LA Dodgers will visit the Twin Cities to take on the Twins for a quick 2-game series starting tomorrow. Lakeena, I want to. You asked me a question. What surprised me about this opening weekend? I was watching baseball games just about almost 24 hours straight. I had to get a break in, but I was watching. It's nice to have baseball and watching out of market games. Especially for baseball, that's what I was doing most of the weekend. Of course, watching the Sox entirely. But the Cincinnati Reds taking 2 out of 3 from the Atlanta Braves. As we mentioned, I think Atlanta's still going to be a good ball club, but maybe it was the hangover from receiving their championship rings, which looked nice, by the way, for those of you that haven't seen it. Yeah, as the kids would say, iced out. Or go look for it on the internet. As Lakeena would say, Google is your friend. And so if you haven't seen the Atlanta Braves championship rings, it looks very nice. But Cincinnati takes care of them. As you mentioned, Texas, it may not be a bad ball club, but Toronto takes care of them over the weekend. And as we mentioned, Tampa, they still could be good. I don't know if they'll be 100 games when team good, but they look good so far. The Philadelphia Phillies, we're talking about a city and a fan base that overreacts a lot. The Philadelphia Phillies fans, they overreact a lot. They had a chance to sweep the Oakland A's, and that didn't happen as Oakland took care of the Philadelphia Phillies yesterday by the score of 4-1. And so those are the things that stood out to me this weekend. Also, too, the Kansas City Royals, even though they got blasted yesterday, Bobby Witt Jr., it looks like he's going to be a very good cornerstone player for the Kansas City Royals. You can tell that this is my quote-unquote you're getting old series. I remember his daddy playing.
Oh God!
Back in the 80s and 90s.
Jeez, okay, but he's doing pretty well in his own right so far. So yeah. But again, this is another one of those times where you're like, oh God, you're feeling old now because I remember his dad. Remember his dad play. He was really good. So
yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Feeling old. Thanks, Sid. But all right. But yeah, he's really looked good so far. And like I said before, Tampa still is currently the only team that's undefeated right now in the majors after only 3 or 4 days. So go figure. But but yeah, I think so far, there's still a lot of season left, and we'll see. I mean, I know Dodgers fans, like you said, are freaking out because they're 1-2. Oh my God, they lost 2 out of 3. If you know the history with them in Colorado, they tend not to play very well in Colorado, especially with the altitude of the course. So I think people need to kind of just chill with that. The Phillies had their chances to sweep, but but look, you take 2 out of 3, it's fine. I mean, it's not you're not nothing to freak out about as well. I know the Reds are 2-2 right now, so we'll see where they're at. But yeah, it's a little too early to kind of think about anything right now, folks. And plus, you also have extended rosters too, so a lot of some of these guys that you're seeing right now, you probably won't see. After I think June or May, I think for right now.
May.
So you might be seeing some guys. Some of those guys that we mentioned will probably be out. Back down to Myers. So
here's the thing. Before we break for the bottom of the hour, going back to that Red Sox Yankees series, that was a very entertaining series to watch. Josh Donaldson with the game-winning hit on Friday as he introduces himself to the rivalry as a new member of the Yankees, and of course. On Saturday, I was watching this live. Giancarlo Stanton, that man can hit a ball a mile.
Oh yeah,
I saw that
he
hit the home run to give the Yankees the lead, which led them to the win. That pitch before he swung and missed, you could hear the crowd go woo because he takes a very hard swings, and then of course the next pitch he blasted out of Yankee Stadium. My goodness, that young man can hit a baseball far or what?
I don't think they found that ball yet either. I think they're still looking for it. It might be in Brooklyn somewhere. Who knows? But yeah, that was sort of like some. I don't know. I mean, it's gonna get interesting though. It's as we get closer and closer. We get like we get to April because we really don't know. Now you can't lose the old saying goes. You can't lose the division in April, but you can't win or you can't win the division in April, but you can't lose it in April. So that's a whole nother thing that people need to figure out. So Dodgers, all the other teams that are contending that struggled. I mean, they were probably the only team that struggled, And then Milwaukee struggled, of course, against the Cubs. But again, we'll see where these teams are. Give it a month, especially for a lot of these, pitchers and such. So, with the shortened season, the condensed spring training. So let's give them some time to kind of develop. And then after a month, if they still aren't, doing too bad, are doing pretty badly, have at it. But for right now, they really just need to chill.
All right, we'll be back to wrap up the show for today right here on Sports Zone Chicago. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. When we return, Lakeena will have our Masters update. We'll have some other nuggets for you. And as a sports fan of your favorite team, which game or games would you refuse to watch? Which game or games as a fan of your favorite team that you refuse to watch? We'll get into that and a whole lot more. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. That's Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than a half hour left in this extravaganza we call a sports radio show. You have a question or comment of any of our topics that we covered during today's show, you can go to our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. You type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, as we talked about with our girl Christine Manica on Friday, Tiger Woods wasn't going to win the tournament of the Masters that goes to Scottie Scheffler. Congratulations to him. He's your 2022 Masters champion. But the way that Tiger played in that tournament over the weekend, just his presence being there was all I needed to see.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell he was still limping in some spots. Yeah, he finished the thing, well, the round well, and look, he looked, and even he said himself, he said, look, the fact that he even made it, to the this far and made it, through the weekend and played through the weekend and such. I mean, it's gonna be really, like
Hmm.
I think he knows that it would have been, even better. I know he said that he was gonna win the tournament. I know people kind of fed off that, but you know what? I mean, okay, look, you did what you said, said that you're going to do. 46, the fact that he actually ended up winning, that's actually a win for himself. I mean,
Yeah.
he even said that last year that when he won a few years back in 2019, I mean, that was, a victory in of itself. So, you know, again, good for him. But I want to talk about Scottie Scheffler for a second because I've heard like people say, oh, well, he's kind of boring. He's kind of blah, 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 blah. Okay, what? Okay, fine. Well, here's what he's won since February 13th. Got his first PGA Tour win, on February 13th. He won the Phoenix Open. He won Arnold Palmer's tournament, the Invitational. He
Hmm.
won the WGC Dell Technologies match play. He became number one player in the world after that win. Now he's won the Masters. And also, too, he joins Tiger, Dustin Johnson, who won in the 2020 November Masters, Ian Woods, who did it in 91, for a couple in 92, as guys who won the
Hmm.
Masters, being the number one player in the world. So look, I mean, look, Cameron Smith made it interesting. He had that shot, got it down to like 2 shots back. But
Hmm.
he had a couple of slip ups on 12, and that was in for him. Rory McIlroy made it interesting too. He had a 64. Had the birdie, that cool part with him going
Hmm.
birdie and that walk off birdie in that 18th hole. Also, Colin Morikawa, who has a couple of majors in his own right, who's a defending Open champion. He also had a bunker, go in, for the walk-off birdie. So that was a pretty cool moment as well. Rory got to 7 under, which is the best round of the tournament at 64.
Hmm.
Got 8 under, had to see Scheffler kind of like totally, wheels fell off for him. Even he said it was gonna be hard for him to try to make it, but like he got second place by himself. So
Hmm.
that's good. Also Cameron Smith, finished top 5 again in the Masters. Of course, he won. He made it to um top 10 last year as well. So look, it was all in all a great tournament. Yes, Tiger was a story. Yes, yeah, Tiger. Okay, yeah, he finished. He
Hmm.
actually finished a full 4 rounds. Okay, cool. But let's give some love to Scheffler. He got $2.7 million. So that's another thing. He got a great moment with his family, his wife
Yeah.
Meredith. They were high school sweethearts. That was a sweet moment too, as they were walking, through the grounds, to the greens, going through as he was, signing his scorecard and making it official and such. So it was a great Masters. It actually ended up being a great tournament all around. And CBS, the way they presented was so cool with the drone shots and that opener and with all the great moments. Of course, 25 years. It'll be 25 years. Wednesday since of course Tiger won his historic Masters. If you guys didn't catch
Yeah.
that moment with Jim Nance, the Jim Nance remembers he's been doing that for like about forever. That was the thing this year. And look, I think Tiger. I mean, I'm sure he'll be back next year as usual. And they actually showed Phil those couple times. Phil won the Masters, which look, they told him, they said, look, Phil was invited, he just didn't come. So it was a little bit weird in that front. That's a whole other conversation as well. Maybe we'll get into that when Christine comes back with us next Friday. But yeah, it was a great tournament. I think Scheffler is a guy that also one of his sisters said that he does a lot of great travel work too. So we'll definitely check it out. He's a Dallas guy. He went to the University of Texas with Jordan Spieth, so he's getting a lot of recognition.
Mhm.
So yeah, people need to get to know golf's newest star.
As I ask the question all the time, I'll still ask it again. Who's the next big star in golf who transcends the actual sport? Will it be Scottie Scheffler who won it yesterday? I thought it would be Rory McIlroy who would take the tournament. He was actually in the lead, as you mentioned. He faltered down the stretch. Because Tiger's not going to do this forever. Will it be Jordan Spieth? I know he was a hot name a few years ago, and not many people are bringing him up now. So, who's going to be the new guy in golf that's going to transcend the sport? We'll just have to find out and see. Looking at the leaderboard here, Lakeena, what about Corey Connors? He was tied for 3rd place with a
Yeah.
-3, and so I thought he had a good performance as well. Not too many people were talking about him, who
Yeah.
represents Canada.
Yeah, he was kind of like right there, like in the top 15, 20 range. He did like make a nice little run in the final round, but I think it was just too much for him. I know Justin Thomas, I think he
Mhm.
was up there for a little bit. He kind of faltered a bit. And I think
Yeah, he finished at a -1.
yeah, he and Scottie Scheffler are actually good friends, so they actually competed against each other in college. So with Justin Thomas, of course, at Alabama. DJ, you thought that maybe he would make another go at it for a time, but on
Mhm.
Saturday he didn't have a good round, so he kind of fell off that part as well. There was some look, there were some great moments too. I mean, you had those hole outs on 18 by both Rory and Morikawa. Shane Lowry, who won the Open Championship a couple years ago. He finished strong in a -5. So yeah, so there were a lot of Zalatoris, who a lot of people thought he could probably be the next big guy, for especially on the American side.
Mhm.
He had a nice finish as well, made day 62. So there was a lot of there was a lot of great finishes by a lot of great guys in the tournament as well. So they had some guys that struggled. I know John Rahm struggled a little bit. People thought that maybe he will win this weekend. The game just wasn't there for him right now. And also 220 Finau as well, who was top 10 at one point during the tournament. Harold Varner the third, who was right there for a little bit. He
Mhm.
struggled. I think the winds got the better of him as well. Hideki Matsuyama, who was the defending champion, fell off a little bit too. Thought maybe he might get a little interested, but that 77 on the third round, that did him in as well. So yeah, there were some guys that were able to take advantage of the conditions. The conditions were kind of like the windy, and it wasn't rain, but it was very windy there, especially on Saturday. And you thought that maybe some guys that DJ left some putts out there for some birdies out there. Connors also had left a couple of putts
Mhm.
out there, but he actually did better as the match went on and tied for 6. So he's got a nice little for the next major coming up, which I believe is the U.S. Open. So that's coming up soon. So you'll be seeing a lot of these guys at the U.S. Open. So yeah, so
Will we
it
see
actually
Tiger there?
where's let me see where the US Open is this year. Let me see.
Because it'll be great if Tiger participated. As we talked about, you saw him limping over the weekend, but he was still playing his tail off, and so just as I mentioned before, just him being there
It's
after having
gonna
that.
be at Torrey Pines this year. So
Okay,
he actually has won a couple of times at Torrey Pines
okay.
for the US Open. So we might see him there. We'll see. He's already said
Obviously,
he's
it'll
gonna
be a little bit healthier, but just his presence being at that tournament was the story.
he's
No
already
disrespect to Scottie Scheffler, who won. It's not his fault that he's been overshadowed by Tiger's return, but hopefully Tiger can get a little bit healthy. Like I said, he's getting older now, but just his presence out there was very good, especially after what he went through almost a year ago.
He already said he's going to play at the Open Championship in St. Andrews
Okay.
in a few months in
Okay.
July. So that might, could we probably see him at the US Open? We'll see, which is right before
Mhm.
that. But, at Torrey
I
Pines, he
wouldn't
said
be
he's
surprised if he
won.
takes the U.S. Open off to get prepared for that
It
tournament
might
in
be. I
July.
think, yeah, because St. Andrews, he actually has won, I think, like 2 or 3 at St. Andrews, for the Open.
Okay.
So he might take, like I said, he might take the US
Mhm.
Open off. But again, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people at NBC that will love for him to come to come to the U.S.
Yeah.
Open in a couple of months. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, but you can tell that he is still limping. That the knee is still bothering him, and it could also be too old age as well. He's 46 now, so he's
Yeah.
not a spring chicken anymore. But you never know. We'll see.
I want to see what the ratings are from CBS from this past weekend. Even though Tiger didn't win it, yeah, many people, including yours truly, watching it just because of Tiger. You didn't know, you knew that deep down he wasn't going to win it, but just him being there and having people who don't watch golf like yours truly watching it, CBS really had to be happy from that standpoint.
Yeah, and they still have showed their little shots of Tiger. They actually
Hmm.
early on in the broadcast they showed those a couple of shots as he was walking down 18 and the
Hmm.
crowd, and he was smiling and such. So he I think he's appreciating it. He even said himself in interviews he's appreciating the crowds more, that especially
Hmm.
now that like you get older. I think you appreciate that type of thing. So
Yeah.
he seems more engaged now with with the players and such. So it's actually pretty cool to see.
Yeah. It is very cool to see. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here in Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in 11 color. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, It's not a show that goes by that we don't talk about football.
Oh
And
boy.
watching a couple of these pundit shows this morning, your boy Tom Brady's making news once again.
Ew,
And
goody.
we talked about Todd Bowles taking over as head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. Bruce Arians, ex-head coach, being kicked upstairs. Now the story has come out over the weekend that Tom Brady was looking into playing for the Miami Dolphins, and he wanted the head coach to be, drum roll please, and now I have a brain fart. So Lakeena, fill in who he wanted to be head coach.
Well, you're gonna have to tell me because I actually have a brain fart as well. So, but I'll look it up right quick.
Okay.
It was yeah, because someone had actually started that rumor. I'll give some context here.
Okay.
Some people had started the rumor that maybe
He wanted Sean Payton as head
Sean
coach.
Payton as a head coach. Yeah, so there was someone said on Twitter that, oh, well, Brady's going to play for the Dolphins this year. Now, I didn't know about the Sean Payton aspect of it, that, he wanted him to be the head coach, but I guess, of course, that didn't happen. I think that's just, that was just kind of like, I think the whole thing was BS, but that's a whole nother thing there. But I mean, why go? Look, did Buffalo lead the AFC East? Did they lead
No.
the AFC East? Okay.
No.
Okay, the Patriots, I mean, yeah, they made a couple of pickups and such, but they're still in the AFC East. I mean, like the only thing I can think of is that I would think that maybe he would want to avoid playing the Patriots. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's any truth to this. I just think that it's just so that somebody was trying to kind of like, let's get some clicks, let's get some people looking at the articles, because I think that's just BS.
But it just imagine if Tom Brady would have gone to Miami. Imagine it's not like he doesn't have a great team around him now in Tampa, because he does, and he won a Super Bowl with them a couple of years ago. But just imagine Tom Brady and Tyreek Hill.
Oh boy.
Tom Brady would have played for the next 2-3 years till he was 50.
Yeah. So I honestly don't know what's going on right now, but yeah, I can only imagine how those two would have, I think they would have been okay interacting, but like I said before, I feel like at this point, I think, look, he got what he wanted. I think Bruce Arians is out of there. You got Todd Bowles as a head coach now. I just think it's sort of a little bit silly, but that's just me.
Yeah, Miami owner Stephen Ross is a Michigan graduate, so is Tom Brady, so I can see the connection there.
Right.
But of course, now people bringing up the Brian Flores lawsuit, who's now assistant coach on the defensive side for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're not going to get into the Brian Flores thing. We talked about that enough, so we're going to let that go. But as I mentioned before, Tom Brady has the weapons around him in Tampa. Now, it's interesting to hear that Rob Gronkowski is thinking about coming back.
Really?
I don't think he has
why.
a choice. If he's going to come back, he's going to Tampa, okay?
Yeah, he's not going to play anywhere else. That Tampa, it's basically Tampa or a bus, or he'll retire instead. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, there's so many rumors about this. I'm just at that point where I'm like, okay, who cares? Like, I don't care anymore. Like, the whole saga with Brady, and now the Dolphins part is now apparently has legs. It's just like, oh God, you got to be kidding me with this. But
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakeena here with you. We still have a few minutes left in the show for today in our last segment for Second City Sports. Lakeena, I was watching, I watch a lot of throwback games on YouTube, especially now with the ESPN Classic going bye-bye.
Yeah.
And I was watching the Knicks and Bulls Game 3 from the 94 playoffs last night. I watched it a few times before, of course. Tony Kukoc hit the game-winning shot. The Bulls blow a 20-point lead. You had that JoJo English, Derek Harper fighting from the TNT booth.
Yep.
And, of course, you had the 1.8 Scottie Pippen incident. Of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google is your friend, along with the Last Dance documentary. Lakeena, I think we talked about this before, but I was thinking again last night. Of course, the former NBA referee Hugh Hollins has passed, but and then we did a segment called Sports Pardons. Would you give us who would you give a sports pardon to? Hugh Hollis is not one of them, of course. What came to mind immediately, I was watching that game last night, was Game 5, of course. The foul call on Scottie Pippen when Hubert Davis, not head coach in North Carolina, Hubert Davis shot that three-point shot, which he missed. And then, of course, Hubert Davis said to Tom Dore, who was the play-by-play man for the Bulls TV broadcast at Sports Channel at the time, he told Tom Dore that Scottie Pippen did not foul him. Now, was he actually lying about that? We'll never know. But that's what the man actually said to Tom Dore. And so I said, that's one game that I refuse to watch. I know NBA TV replayed it a few times a few years ago. I refuse to watch it. I refuse to watch it now on YouTube. I refuse to watch the 2010 NFC Championship game between the Bears and Packers. I will not rewatch that broadcast. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Those are the two games that come to mind that I refuse to watch.
Okay.
Do you have any games that you
I
refuse to watch? You don't care if it's on YouTube or broadcast TV. I'm not going to watch it. I know the results. I can't get over the pain. I won't get over the pain. I refuse to watch it, whether it's college or pro.
Okay, I have a couple. I have one college game and one pro game. The game six of the Marlins Cubs World Series with the Bartman stuff, and like I refuse to watch that game. I do not watch it. That game does not exist. I know what happened in that game. That I don't know. I don't know them. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that game before. No, that's not happening. I don't know what that is. It was just some like, oh, it was a foul ball. Okay, fine, whatever. But another game on the college side, the 03 Nash BCS championship game between Miami and Ohio State.
Oh, Miami got cheated. I'm sorry, they got cheated.
Yes,
they got cheated. Good call. Good call. Miami got cheated. Yes,
they did.
And I think not Frank Gore. Was it Frank Gore or Willis McGahee? I think it was Willis McGahee got hurt in that game.
McGahee was the one who got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, McGahee. Yeah, and Drew Rosenhaus still got him a first round pick with Buffalo. Interesting.
That was 02, I should say. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was 02, the BCS championship game between that day. I got the years mixed
Yeah.
up. But yeah. The LSU won the last year. I was actually happy for Nick Saban at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was the 02 Rose Bowl. That's the BCS championship game. And yeah, Miami fans are still ticked, I should say, about that.
Yes, and rightfully so.
Yeah, so they should have won back-to-back national championships. And yeah, I refuse to watch that game. Again, I don't know that game. I don't know them. I don't know them. And yeah, that's the game that I'm going by the fans' perspective here. But yeah, it's me who actually had Miami win that game. I'm still ticked about that. That referee who called that pass interference that was not. But that's a whole
Thank you. That's a good story. One. That's my number 3. Now, a couple other games. The White Sox, the 2000 team, of course, they came out of nowhere. They won the AL Central. I have not watched any of the 3 games against the Seattle Mariners. I know they host Seattle tomorrow for 2022 home opener. I'm not going to watch Game 3. I don't know if I'm going to watch the other first 2 games, but I'm not going to watch Game 3, especially the way they ended on a drag bunt. No.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was bad.
No, I'm not watching that.
That was bad.
And I thought about that 03 Cubs. So like I said, I'm not a Cubs fan, but I did watch the 5 Outs documentary that's on YouTube that at the time CSN Chicago did, which was a very good documentary. But if you're a Cubs fan, even though you had the 2016 World Championship, you refuse to watch Game 6, even though after that year, that changed the culture for the Chicago Cubs and their fans. So it kind of did wonders in another direction there.
Sort of a different direction there.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Cubs, I know our buddy Jason Pfeiffer, I'm sure he would not be very pleased with that. He doesn't watch that game either.
We got to bring him on at some point. I know he's a very busy man. We got to bring him back on at some point.
Yes, he is. I'm sure he'll find the time for us. No doubt about it. I think another game that I think a lot of fans, if you're a Virginia fan, you don't want to see that game from a couple of years ago. You made history for all the wrong reasons, being the first number 1 seed to lose to a number 16 seed. You don't want to watch that game. Of course, Maryland, UMBC. Of course, they actually won a national championship that next year. So I guess it ended up working with a lot of those same players. So it actually ended up working out for them in the end. But I'm sure that's one game that they don't want to watch. I know UNLV fans don't want to watch that Duke game from '91.
Yeah, it's one of the best college basketball games I've ever seen. Yes.
You could have won. They could have won. They could have been.
I think they were undefeated that year too.
Yes, they were, and they could have won had they beaten Kansas. Of course, that game had already been played. They probably could have won back-to-back championships. Of course, there would have been some other stuff that went on too, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I don't think UNLV fans would like to watch that game, especially back in the day. Now, unfortunately, after that, they kind of UNLV hasn't really been the same since those teams, but for a time.
Yeah. What about if you're in the final Illini basketball fan? Back in '89, you lose to Michigan.
You had a chance. You had a couple of shots to win that game too.
Yeah. Stephen Bardo was on that team. We got to get him on the show at some point. But Stephen Bardo, Nick Anderson, Kendall Gill, the Flying Illini. Yeah.
Marcus Liberty.
Liberty. Yeah. Chicago's very on as well. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or the 05 championship, if you really want to go with U of I. I mean, they had their chances to win that game too against North Carolina.
Yeah.
With Sean May and them. Yeah. That group. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was first coach Roy Will's first championship. Now again, granted, a lot of those guys some of the guys were recruited by Matt Doherty, I believe. Some of those guys, so you actually able to propel them. But yeah, if you're an Illini fan, on the flip side, Arizona a couple of games before. If you're an Arizona fan, you're not happy with a couple of before that, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so I'm sure if you ask people, we'll put that question out there on Twitter, or I'll ask our buddy Kyle who post audio version, which game do you refuse to watch, whether it's a result or a buzzer beater or a game-winning goal or a home run.
Yeah, let's do that hockey, Lakeena, as we stick with this subject. Congrats to Dale Talent and Pat Foley. They did their final broadcast together last night as the Blackhawks lose again to the Dallas Stars. Of course, I'll be at the UC on Thursday for Pat Foley's final broadcast. I'll try not to cry.
Yeah,
I'll try not to cry, but it's going to be an emotional night. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting evening. So I'll talk about it on our next show on Friday. So just want to give our congratulations out to Pat Foley and Dale Talent. They did a throwback broadcast last night. If you're a Blackhawks fan, 2014 Western Conference Finals, June 1st, Game 7. Nick drops his stick. Alex Martinez. Game-winning goal, which helped the Kings upset the Blackhawks, and they will win the Stanley Cup that next round against the New York Strangers. And, of course, 2011, Game 7 against Vancouver. You almost had a chance to make history, trailing 3-0. And then Chris Campoli, that full dropped the puck, and then Vancouver scores the game winner overtime.
Yeah, it was so – oh, my God. I've blocked that game out of my psyche, Sid. I've blocked that game out of my psyche. How dare you bring that game up? I mean, jeez, I still have nightmares about that game because they could have went back to back. They could have went back to back, but no. Well, whatever. But also too, going back to that last game, Dale Talent and Pat Foley, it was sort of like it was such a sweet, sentiment. They actually had like some throwbacks from their first games together where they both had dark hair and. Dale had the mullet.
Sports Vision days. Yeah.
Oh gosh, you're going on the way back machine. Going on the way back machine there, and they're about to start their playoffs too after this week. So hockey's getting ready to gear up for their playoffs.
Yeah, they got a couple of weeks left, and then they'll start. Yep.
Yeah. So Austin Matthews, I think he's just scored again. I think so. He's tearing up scoring wise. Also too, Ovechkin. I think he broke another record.
Yeah. So did Sidney Crosby yesterday.
1,100 games played.
Yeah,
in the fewest games in history. Like that's the 7th fewest. Joining guys like Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and Yager and Yzerman and the others. So that's a pretty good one. Also, 100 his career goal, Ovi, who we're talking about in the month of April, tied with Gretzky for the most career months with 100 plus goals. So for consecutive months. So that's just another still breaking records at his age. I mean, it's sort of it's mind-boggling to me how he's still able to do this. But do you think Austin Matthews will get MVP honors?
He should. He should. I know he's an American playing in a Canadian city. Of course, Toronto. They're always crazy about hockey. Austin Matthews has had a great year. He's my hands down MVP. The question is for Toronto: can they finally get it done and get to a Stanley Cup final?
That's number one question. And it's been like about 20 years since a Canadian team has actually longer than that since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I think if you're Toronto, I think you got the team to do it. Can you do it though? That's a whole nother thing because you got to contend with the Florida Panthers who looked really good.
I still say the New York Rangers are the favorite to come out that East.
They might. We'll see. I guess we'll talk more about it. Tampa will have something to say about it too. This could be a three-peat for them. The Penguins could have something to say about it. The Capitals, if they get in, they'll have something to say about it. On the Western side, Colorado is the only team right now.
Prove it to me.
Yeah, well, okay. I know how you feel about Colorado. Minnesota, so
it could be a sneaky good pick.
Yeah, Calgary and Edmonton, they may have something to say about it too on the Canadian side. So, and also and maybe the Kings too. I mean, they could probably get back up there. It's been a while for them since they've been back in the playoffs. So
I don't know if they could win a cup, but they're a whole lot better this year. They had a rebuild too, so then it's paying off right now for them.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Should be a lot of fun. Like I said, well, we'll get into the Stanley Cup playoffs and such, as it gets closer and closer. So we still got a couple more weeks left. But also too, actually some good news for the Lakers if you're a Lakers fan. They're no longer have to pay Luol Deng anymore. He signed remember that 4-year, $72 million contract? He only played like about 60 games for them. Well, they don't have to pay him anymore. They're done playing. They're done paying him. So.
So he doesn't have that Bobby Bonilla deal anymore.
No. That deal is done as of earlier this morning. So
I'm sure he's doing well for himself post
he's doing okay,
basketball. So that's just extra money in the bank.
Yeah, so he's doing just fine, and I'm sure. Yeah, he's doing okay. I think.
He watched the Bulls at some point and bring him back as a surprise ambassador.
They might do that too. You never know. But yeah. So anything else that kind of catch your attention before we disperse?
I'm looking forward to going to my first game of the season tomorrow for the Chicago White Sox as they open up against the Seattle Mariners at home. This will be my second opening day ever. I went to my first one in 2019 because of a free ticket, and this will be my second one. So it should be fun. Hopefully, I catch our guy Sean Sierra. He says he's going, so and a couple of my followers will be going out there as well. So it should be fun. The weather's going to be great, and hopefully the White Sox will come out of there with a victory.
Could be a tough series, but I think they should.
And I'm going to the UC on Thursday for Pat Foley's final game.
If you see Chris Foster's out there, see if you can book him on. See if you can get him on the show for us.
First of all, if he's in the building, I'll say hi. And number two, I'll try to do what you
try
said.
To do that.
So.
Yeah, try it. If you see him, I know he's probably. I'm sure he's gonna be hanging out there somewhere. So I'm sure.
Yeah,
because it's pretty full, passing the torch, if you will. And also, Sean, look, let's do some crosstalk too. We haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
But
hopefully we can do it this Friday. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But with that said, I'm looking forward to the play-in games. It should be a lot of fun tomorrow. Excuse me, I can't talk. Also to all the baseball. We talked about all the series, the great series. Should be some interesting series, no doubt. Especially now that the Lakers have made it official that Frank Vogel is they parted ways with Frank Vogel, so it'll be interesting who they get to coach that team. It won't be LeBron, so that's a whole nother thing. But
you sure about that?
Well, maybe player. Well, hey, look, no one's done a player coach game since Bill Russell. That was years ago. So, with that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. And you can download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure you catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you follow War Media at WAR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And we also want to say good luck and congratulations to our girl, Caitlin Sharkey, who has, made, the announcement was made late last night that she is leaving Fox News Chicago, a sports anchor and a reporting site. But I think she's going to go on to bigger and better things. So we'll still have her on the show and such. But also to Lauren Majera from WGN, that was the first sports anchor reporter for that station. I know you guys
first
had her
female.
on. Yeah, first female anchor and reporter for that station. And I know you guys had her on too on
Dia Davis. Yeah, we brought her in
Davis.
the studio. Yeah, she was a whole lot of fun. Yeah, Chicagoan. She knows what she's talking about. She has a on-camera presence, and the way she delivers her reports, it's just remarkable. Good luck to her in her future endeavors as well.
Yeah, both. I'm sure they'll land. I'm sure they'll land on their feet somewhere. They'll be just fine. So with that said, though, for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday. Enjoy the games, everybody.
Go Sox! Holla!